Shel! What are you doing?
Oh, just coming out of the closet.
Hello, all you closet monsters. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Sheldon.
Welcome to Lavender Lingo.
Today we're talking about coming out.
And telling you our stories about coming out. Every LGBTQ individual has one, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Coming out is defined as a metaphor used by LGBTQIA+ people to self-disclose their sexual orientation, romantic orientation, or gender identity. It is a major milestone in self-acceptance and self-actualization for all LGBTQIA+ people.
With 7.2% of the American population identifying as LGBTQ and 9% of the global population, more people are coming out now more than ever.
4.2% of Gen X is LGBT.
10.5% of millennials.
And 20.8% of Gen Z.
It also seems as though people are accepting these identities earlier and earlier as the generations go on.
Most baby boomers and Gen X came out on average around 24 years old.
Where millennials brought that average age down to 18.
For many people, coming out can be seen as both a liberating moment of self-acceptance and self-expression, as well as a life-altering trauma.
Unfortunately, according to Pew Research Center, about 40% of our community say that they've been rejected by a close friend or family member. 30% say that they've been physically threatened or attacked, and 36% say that the overall experience of coming out has been negative.
None of these numbers should take away from the positivity that comes from coming out. So that's why we decided to share our stories today.
So I guess we'll start with me. I can pretty much dwindle down my coming out story to 4 distinct stages. The first stage was when I definitely was not ready. I was about 15 years old, and I was sitting in my room on a phone conversation with somebody that I met on a dating website from a millennia ago. On the phone, I was having this conversation with a boy, and my mom came downstairs to get me, but was listening outside of the door, and without me wanting to come out, she came through the door and asked about the phone conversation that I was having, where I was saying things that maybe she also was not ready to hear. I know I definitely wasn't ready to accept the fact that I was gay, or that I was even thinking that that may be a possibility. So in this conversation, I asked my mom if I could go to therapy because I wanted a way to get rid of this. And I had always been a spiritual person, so when I went to therapy, I asked the therapist if there was a way for me to get rid of this, and he pushed me in the direction of turning further into religion as a way to escape this concept of me being gay, which I'm just going to say does not work, and it will never work for anyone. There's a little...
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I felt too.
The second stage of me coming out all had to deal with accepting it through myself and, as I was saying, spirituality. One night when I was about 18 years old, I sat there and I was screaming at God. Like, if the greatest gift he can give is love, why is it that that's something he didn't want me to experience? In that conversation with God, I felt like I was given knowledge that being gay was actually a gift that I was given, because it was my opportunity and my objective to show how big and how great love can be. And in accepting being gay is when I finally had the opportunity to meet somebody that I love. And that's when I met Sheldon. After meeting Sheldon, I knew that I had to come out. I wanted to share my relationship with him more than I had wanted anything else ever. And so then I came out to the first person willingly that I'd ever come out to. I wrote down, because I couldn't actually say the words that I was gay, I wrote down a little letter to one of my friends named Selena. And I told her that I was gay and that I had met somebody named Sheldon, or that the person that I had been touting as Shelly was actually Sheldon. After Selena, I came out to the first member of my family willingly, which was my oldest sister, Kayla. And then I started to come out more, and every single time I said, I'm gay out loud, it became easier and easier. Until I actually came out on Facebook by changing my relationship status with Sheldon while I was on a family vacation in Mexico. I did this by deleting all of my family because I still hadn't told anybody but my sister. And then when we got back from Mexico, because I had already come out on Facebook, stuff was starting to roll and people were starting to find out. So I knew I had to tell my mom. I went to her and we were fighting already, and it just kind of came out in anger, and I yelled at her and I was like, I'm gay, and she laughed at me, which ensued a meltdown on my end, because how could your mother possibly laugh at you while you're coming out? There was no malicious behavior behind her laughing. She just finally felt relief from me getting to say it out of my mouth and finding that comfort within myself. The third stage is when this all became a passive action. I was calling every single family member, every single friend, and I was just telling them, hey, by the way, I'm gay. It was just a quick, easy action. That is until my mom was forcing me to start to tell my dad. Finally, I told my dad. He was the very, very last person I told. I went to him, I sat him down on the couch, and I explained to him that I was gay. And he took it way calmer than I expected him to. Although, like pretty much mostly everybody else, he had said that he kind of knew all along. As time went on from telling my dad, things evolved into pretty severe family drama. Thankfully now, most of what we dealt with is all just healed scars. And now, I guess we're in the 4th stage of this coming out process, or the final stage, where I get upset when I have to come out. Like, what do I have to do to make it so that I never have to come out to anybody again? Like, how more gay could I possibly get?
So for me, coming out was more of like a several-year process than an event necessarily. The first time that I ever came out was to one of my friends in 8th grade. Her name was Hannah. We were working on a project in English class, and I just kind of let it slip to her. And Hannah was kind of the weird girl in class, so I knew that I could trust her to keep my secret because we were both kind of outcasts and oddballs. She ended up being super supportive, and this helped ease the depression that I was going through in my 8th grade year, dealing with being a gay kid and coming to terms with my reality, constantly being made fun of for it because everybody else seemed to know, but I just didn't want to accept it. The next person I told was my childhood best friend, Miranda. I told her somewhere like halfway through freshman year. She was super supportive. She was always the person that would defend me when people would call me gay, and she always fought with people in my defense. So she was a little upset that I didn't tell her sooner, but she was definitely super supportive and helped me to further accept myself and further feel comfortable with my sexuality. After Miranda, I ended up just telling our group of friends. We were all really close knit, and they all accepted me. They all kind of already knew. There were rumors circulating. That's a story for another day, however. I ended up telling my parents towards the end of my junior year once I met Tyler, and my mom said she had always known, which kind of made me question some of her choices regarding my upbringing because she was always really unsupportive of me hanging out with girls, and literally all of my friends were girls. And she would never really let me do things with them that would have allowed me to have like a normal childhood, or at least what I considered normal. While she was really supportive, it didn't really do anything to improve our already rocky relationship, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. Unlike my mom, my dad was pretty unresponsive, although he also claimed that he had already known. Unfortunately, we already had a really fragile relationship and he wasn't very accepting. He regularly made homophobic remarks and comments and said really hurtful things, and that didn't stop once I told him who I was. And obviously, that made our relationship even worse than it was before. The funny thing, however, about when I told my parents, I didn't really come out to them as gay. I didn't tell them that I was gay. I didn't really make it this big thing. I just walked up to them and told them that I was dating a boy. Like, it is what it is. There's nothing that you really have to say in the situation that's gonna change my mind or make me feel any different. And I wasn't necessarily looking for their acceptance. I was just letting them know that I was with somebody, I had found somebody, and that's who I was. I did it that way because I didn't want to leave any sort of room for any commentary or judgment from them because I already knew that they harbored homophobia. I had heard things about being gay my entire life, and at this point, I was just done letting how other people viewed who I was affect how I felt. After telling my friends, coming out at school, telling my parents, there were very few people left to come out to, so I posted it on Facebook. I shared my relationship status with Tyler, and at that point, everybody in my life knew. My siblings were super supportive, especially my sister Katie, who has always been my best friend and my biggest supporter. There were only a couple people who were unresponsive and kind of cut me out for it, but generally most of them were loving and accepting, which I was very thankful. That being said, most of them had known my entire life. It was pretty clear, so none of them were really that surprised. One person in particular, though, that I'd love to give a shout out was my Aunt Shelina, who was so kind, so responsive, so supporting, so loving, and so accepting of not only me, but Tyler and my whole situation. She really went out of her way to make sure that I felt loved and accepted and that I had a place to call home.
Beyond our individual stories, every coming out story has aftermath involved. It remains in rubble from what happened. For me, that had a lot to do with the loss of family and friends, usually under the premise of it's not because you're gay, but I know that we're going to be facing prejudice for the rest of our lives, whether it's intentional or not. Coming out also allowed me to find one of the strongest relationships I have. I know that it's him and I against the world for the rest of our lives, and I've never been able to have a relationship like that, mostly because before I was out, I didn't have the opportunity to be a real human, and now I do. I get to have wants, I get to have likes, I get to have dislikes, I get to make myself into a person, because before I was always afraid that my favorite song being Genie in the Bottle, for example, was gonna make me appear as gay. So what did I do? I hid that CD under my bed so that I could secretly listen to that song, or staying up super late and not having a favorite movie or show, even though getting to watch that stuff or watching the stuff that I may have liked, I was always afraid that it was gonna make me gay. And so now I get to actually be a person, a real live person, which I'm so thankful for.
It's Bring It On, by the way. His favorite movie was Bring It On. That's what he was staying up late watching.
Yeah.
So for me, the aftermath of my coming out, there was a lot of positives, a lot of negatives. Because of me coming out and everything that surrounded that, I ended up going in no contact with my parents. I still have no contact with my parents to this day. It's not something that I really feel is a loss, because luckily I gained an amazing family in Tyler and Tyler's family, and I still have all of the people in my that aren't my parents, in my family that love and support me. So it is what it is. It doesn't hurt, but it happened. The other thing is that The other thing is that I gained a great personal strength in coming out, because for so long I had thought who I was, and I had denied and lied and just wasn't okay with being who I was, liking what I liked, having the interests that I had. I was constantly trying to create this person that I thought I was supposed to be, that other people would like. And in coming out and finally just accepting myself, I let all of that go, and I was able to just be my authentic self and be who I wanted to be and show the world like who I truly am inside. And I've gained so much from that. It's astounding. I was able to follow my dreams, move to a new city, build this amazing relationship with an amazing human being. I have all kinds of new friends who really like me for me. And so I guess ultimately what I'm trying to say is, for every loss that I had in coming out, I had positive gains tenfold. It ultimately was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Literally every member of our community has a coming out story. Some of them are full-length novels, some of them are just headlines in a newspaper, some of them are heartwarming, and some of them are tragic, and some still haven't even happened.
If you're struggling with coming out, or just need a safe space where you can speak to somebody and get help, reach out to us on literally any social media site.
We're here to be your biggest supporters.
As members of this community, we have to stick together.
I think for our next video, we're going to be going on a little trip for Shel's birthday, so...
We would love to have you come with us. We're going to be doing a little house scouting, a little hiking, a little beaching, seeing some family, and of course celebrating my birthday.
So hit subscribe to join us in that next video.
Bye, weirdos. That's cute.